Battles win wars, redraw borders, and topple monarchs. They play a critical role in deciding which side wins the war. However, not all of them have a resounding place in history. The majority do not affect the wars they are part of. However, there are those battles that change the dynamics of war completely. Others even change our perception of war. Unfortunately, the significance of some of these epic fights is lost or forgotten. Some fade away in the shuffles of clashing armies, while others are far removed from our current history books. To remedy this, Liber Tea endeavors to bring to your attention some of the most notorious battles of World War I, lest you forget. The Battle of Marne plays a critical role in war history. It was the first battle where armies used radio intercepts and motorized transport. As the Great War broke out, Germany began implementing the Schlieffen plan. The plan required it to assemble the bulk of its forces in the west while leaving a small number of groups in the east. This plan called for the violation of the neutrality of Belgium and Luxembourg to attack France from the north. Germany did not want to fight on two fronts. It planned to knock out France and then attack Russia. At the beginning of the battle, the Germans had some success. However, the lack of reinforcements to sustain their momentum caused them to lose this battle. In September 1914, British and French troops engaged the Germans in a counteroffensive at the Marne. Both sides fought bravely, but the Germans retreated after a few days. The failure of Germany in this critical battle had grave strategic implications. The battle ended Germany's hopes for a quick victory in the west and saved Paris from a siege. Additionally, the defeat condemned Germany to an expensive two-front war. The victory is dubbed the Miracle of the Marne. Utilizing Allied reconnaissance planes, the Allied forces spotted a large gap between the 1st and 2nd German armies. The Allied forces exploited this opportunity to secure a strategic win. While this battle is overlooked today, naval warfare played a critical role in World War I. Germany's unrestricted use of U-boats threatened the Allied forces' war efforts. The unrestricted use of submarine warfare on non-military ships was partly why the U.S. was drawn into the war. The Battle of Jetland was the Great War's naval battle. The Battle of Jetland was the only time when German and British fleets engaged each other. The German high seas was the only time when German and British fleets engaged each other. The German High Seas Fleet intended to undermine the Royal Navy by ambushing the British Grand Fleet in the North Sea. Luckily, British codebreakers warned their navy early. The British Navy deployed a formidable force to counter Germany's plan with this information. The Battle of Jutland involved 250 ships and 100,000 troops. Historians describe it as confused and bloody. Initial encounters between the Royal Navy and Germany's High Seas Fleet destroyed several ships. The High Seas Fleet damaged Admiral Beatty's flagship HMS Lion. Additionally, HMS Queen Mary and HMS Indefatigable were sunk. Admiral Beatty withdrew from the battle shortly to wait for reinforcement. When Admiral Jelocos's Grand Fleet arrived, the Germans fled, as they were heavily outgunned. While the Battle of Jetland failed to secure the decisive victory the belligerents hoped for, it confirmed the Royal Navy's dominance. It also secured the Royal Navy's control of shipping lanes, enabling Britain to implement the blockade that later helped subdue Germany. The Royal Navy lost 6,000 men and 14 ships. Germany, on the other hand, lost 2,500 men and 11 ships. Following this battle, the Germans never tried to question British dominance in the North Sea again. The Battle of Somme claimed over 1 million casualties. It occurred in November 1916. The battle was a joint operation by French and British forces intended to secure a decisive victory against German forces on the Western Front. This is the most infamous and painful episode of the Great War for many. The British played the main role during the offensive. They were pitted against Germans' defenses that had been elaborately laid out over a long period. Despite intensive bombardment before the attack, the British did not acquire the victory their commanders had envisioned. Somme was a deadlock battle of attrition. Within 141 days, the British managed to advance only 7 miles, and in the process, 1 million men were killed, captured, or wounded on both sides. On the first day of the battle, the British incurred over 57,000 casualties, of which 19,240 died. Like Verdun for the French, Somme is a prominent British popular memory in history. It also highlights the apparent futility and loss of the battle. Despite the huge losses, the Battle of Somme occasioned on the Allied forces. The battle was a strategic necessity engaged in securing the needs of an international alliance. Allied commanders learned difficult but critical lessons during the Battle of Somme, which contributed to their victory in 1918. During the first year of the Great War, Russian forces suffered several devastating defeats, including the Battle of Tannenberg, where they suffered a crushing defeat by the Germans. The Brusilov offensive, named after Alexei Brusilov, was the most successful Russian offensive during the war. The Brusilov offensive coincided with the Battle of Somme. The purpose of these battles was to relieve pressure on the entire Western Front. The offensive also removed Austro-Hungarian forces from the Italian front. As a result, Germany redirected its forces to the Eastern Front to support its ally. Austria-Hungary's growing dependence on Germany strained Germany's resources tremendously. Russia never managed to replicate the success of Brusilov's offensive. It was its last significant offensive in the Great War, which led to its overall weakening both politically and militarily. The war ignited social and political unrest, causing revolution and the collapse of the Russian military. The Battle of Belleau Wood. This was the first large-scale battle U.S. forces engaged in during the Great War. The Battle of Belleau Wood is one of the most legendary battles in Marine Corps history. It exemplified the Marine Corps' fundamental values of commitment, courage, and honor. This battle also catapulted American soldiers to global prominence as it helped turn the tide for the Allied forces. In June 1918, the 5th and 6th Marine Regiments were ordered to capture Belleau Wood and rid it of German forces. The ensuing battle was ferocious. On the first day, 1,000 Marines fell. However, after 3 weeks of brutal fighting, including hand-to-hand combat, several charges on German machine gun nests, and trading possession of Belleau Wood 6 times with the Germans, U.S. Marines prevailed. The battle was Germany's last major offensive during World War I. Shortly after its defeat, the Great War ended. The battles mentioned above are some of the most prominent battles during the Great War. From their descriptions, one cannot help but be mind-blown by the sheer destruction and loss of life that the Great War caused. These descriptions also work to honor the memories of the people, combatants, and non-combatants who were slain during the period. Thank you for listening in, and feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Liber Tea for more enlightening discussions on major historical events across the globe. You can also share your knowledge on other famous World War battles in the comments section.